shipping and add code radio for an extra 5% off.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
NBA free agency tipped off on Monday. The Lakers lost a key player. Forward Dorian Finney-Smith signed with Houston, 4 years at $53 million. The Clippers need to get younger in the offseason, but they signed a player who's 37 and another player who'll be 37 in December. Backup center Brook Lopez signed a 2-year deal with the Clippers for $18 million. Nicholas Batum re-signed with the Clippers for 2 years at $11.5 million. The WNBA is adding 3 new franchises: Detroit, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. The league will have 18 teams by 2030. Coco Gauff is back in action today for the first time since winning the French Open last month. The African-American star has a first-round match at Wimbledon against Diana Yastremska of Ukraine. Gauff is the number 2 seed at Wimbledon behind Arina Sabalenka of Belarus. Last year at Wimbledon, Gauff was eliminated in the round of 16. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you. 1, 2, 3, go! Ha ha! Let's keep it going. I'm gonna try to keep it coming. But I'll be alright as long as I can find the good. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.show.com. That's thetavismiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, 2 conversations. Up first, Joshua Fisher Birch is a researcher and content review specialist with the Counter-Extremism Project. He joins us today in advance of the upcoming Eradicate Hate Global Summit in Pittsburgh. On the B side of hour 2, here's a headline for you. We study fascism and we're leaving the U.S. Yale history professor Marcy Shore and her husband, they're out of here. She'll tell us why and where when we speak with her on the backside of hour 2. In our third hour.
Hey, Harper Stewart.
Jordan Armstrong.
Harper, I've always enjoyed your writing, but that book of yours, wow, you nailed it. And your girl here, talk about a fan, she's got her nose in that preview copy every free moment she's got.
Well, you know, it's my job to keep up with what's current.
Of course you do.
Harper, can we get you on Teen Summit or profile you on Tonight with Tavis?
Absolutely. Sure, I would like that.
Great. We'll even get Jordan to produce it. What do you think, Jay?
Oh, absolutely. We've got the inside track.
This is going to be fabulous. It was a pleasure meeting you both. I've got to run. Take care, Harper.
All right, bye-bye.
Wow. Watch, that's going to be Jordan in a little while. Well, she's well on her way. True.
It has been 25 years, believe it or not, since the critically acclaimed and now classic romantic comedy The Best Man premiered. We will have a conversation in our third hour today with award-winning writer, director, and producer Malcolm D. Lee. Of course, there are 1,000 great clips we could have played from The Best Man, but of course my producers had to play the one with the Tavis Smiley reference. That was cute. Nice to get a shout out in a great film like The Best Man all those years ago. There's also a new novel which drops today called The Best Man, Unfinished Business. And so there's a lot to talk about with Malcolm D. Lee, who joins us for a career conversation today in the final hour of this program. In this first hour, though, let's talk politics with the founder of Jacobin magazine and the current president of The Nation magazine, now celebrating its 160th anniversary. I am mad at him, Bhaskar Sunkara. Before I bring Bhaskar on the line, here is breaking news. Senate Republicans have just narrowly passed the Trump mega bill after a marathon voting session. The big, beautiful bill, as Donald Trump called it, the big, ugly bill, as Democrats called it, just passed in the Senate. We shall see what happens in the days ahead when it goes to the House. But after a ton of hurdles, I guess I can put it that way, all kinds of hurdles this bill faced in the Senate. Republicans, as I predicted, for all that back and forth and for all their hand-wringing, I predicted weeks ago, the Republicans in up against Donald Trump are going to find a way to get this thing across the finish line. So I didn't buy into all of this back and forth. I again, said on this program that my sense is that when all is said and done, they are going to push this bill across the finish line, never mind all the hurt and harm and maiming and, dare I say, death. Yeah, I said it. The death it may cause when they cut programs like Medicaid, et cetera, all the things we discussed yesterday. So the Senate has just narrowly passed this Trump mega bill, again, after an all-night marathon voting session. Let me just play some sound right quick from Tom Tillis. This is a Republican from North Carolina, who voted against the bill. Donald Trump went after him immediately when he suggested he was going to vote against it, saying, essentially, I'm going to primary you in North Carolina. Tom Tillis responded, you can't primary me because I just decided I'm not running again. So you're not going to primary Tom Tillis. He just said, I'm not even running again, but I'm going to stand in my truth, and I'm going to vote against this bill as a Republican. I haven't seen the list yet of who all voted. Faraji, get me the list. I assume if he stayed where he was a few days ago, I assume that Rand Paul out of Kentucky may have voted against it as well. They'll give me some data on that right quick, but I know that Tom Tillis was scheduled to vote against it. Again, Republican out of North Carolina. Here's what he had to say, and then when we come forward, we'll bring in Bhaskar Sunkara to the conversation. Okay, Odell, give it to me.
What do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys? It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office or in the cabinet room when I was there with finance, where he said we can go after waste, fraud, and abuse on any programs. Now, those amateurs that are advising him, not Dr. Oz, I'm talking about White House healthcare experts, refuse to tell him that those instructions that were to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse all of a sudden eliminates a government program that's called the provider tax. We owe it to the American people, and I owe it to the people of North Carolina, to withhold my affirmative vote until it's demonstrated to me that we've done our homework. We're going to make sure that we fulfill the promise, and then I can feel good about a bill that I'm willing to vote for. But until that time, I will be withholding my vote.
His vote notwithstanding being held, Republicans once again have just narrowly passed this Trump mega bill in the U.S. Senate, so a great deal to cover regarding that and more when we come forward with Bhaskar Sunkara of The Nation magazine on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon wave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Febreze.
Fabric Talk. Hello, my love. I am your living room carpet. I see everything. I feel everything. After a while, I smell like everything, including Sir Pickles, who you snuggle with while binging that dating show you can't stop watching. So, how about we freshen things up with Febreze Fabric Spray? Oh, and a big spray for my pals, couch and ottoman. Ah, yes, refreshing. Breathe happy, Febreze. La 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 la.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, our guest in this hour is Bhaskar Sunkara, president of The Nation magazine, founding editor of Jacobin. As I mentioned earlier, The Nation now celebrating its 160th anniversary. We'll talk about that a little later in this conversation. All right, Bhaskar, let's jump in, make the most of the time we have left in this hour. Glad to have you for the hour. For starters, how are you today, my friend?
It's a pleasure. So glad to be on with you.
It's good to have you back on the program. Let me just jump right in. So the Senate, as I mentioned moments ago, in case you just tuned in, has just narrowly passed this mega bill. Trump called it the big beautiful bill. Democrats and others called it the big ugly bill. Your overarching thoughts for starters, Bhaskar, and then I'll start to probe a little more deeply after you give me your opening sentiment here.
So I don't want to be hyperbolic, Tavis, but I can't recall a single example in the history of the world of a global superpower just deciding to destroy itself. Not because of competition from China or any other rising power, but just because. And it feels like between Trump's disastrous tariff policy, mind you, I think there's a time and a place for tariffs. I just think Trump's tariff policy just doesn't make any sense and is been very bad for the U.S. economy. And this bill, we're setting up for potentially a sovereign debt crisis. We're seeing the dollar continue to slide, even though the stock market is doing okay. The dollar sliding means that a lot of places around the world are going to be very hesitant in the future about using the U.S. as virtually the sole global reserve currency. And this bill, it adds, some people have been saying 3.3. I've seen credible estimates that suggest it will add around $3.9 trillion to the debt over the next decade. And rather than a investment in the future, like some of the Biden bills, the infrastructure bill that was going to add some short-term debt, but was going to build infrastructure and clean energy and other things for the future, this actually cuts from things like clean energy industry. It cuts from support for the most needy and vulnerable people through the cuts that will happen to Medicaid, through the cuts that will happen to food stamp programs and things like that. So it's bad in the short term, and it's bad in the long term, and the only people benefiting are a handful of super rich people. It's really a disaster. It's a disaster for the benefit of literally just 1% of the population, and even they might suffer in the long run from this too.
Here's more detail. Again, I was giving the news to you as quickly as I could get it. I now have a bit more detail about how this thing went down. So we knew hours ago that J.D. Vance, Vice President, was headed to the Senate in case he was needed to break a tie. Indeed, he was. The Senate passed the mega bill on a vote of 50-50. Tie vote, and J.D. Vance had to, of course, break that tie. As Vice President, as you know, he's the President of the Senate as Vice President. So J.D. Vance breaks the tie, and there were 3 persons who voted against it. As I suggested earlier, I figured Rand Paul was in that category. You may recall a few weeks ago we played a clip of Rand Paul being upset because he got disinvited to the Easter egg hunt at the White House. And I said then, of all the things that Donald Trump has done, the thing that got you upset is that you can't take your grandkids to the Easter egg hunt. He was just whining and crying. I can't believe the President of the United States disinvited U.S. Senator to the Easter egg hunt, and I can't take my grandkids and roll eggs on the White House lawn. That's what got Rand Paul upset. So apparently he's still mad about that, so he voted against it. Rand Paul out of Kentucky. Tom Tillis, who I played on that clip a moment ago, Republican out of North Carolina, he voted against it, obviously, and they were joined. I didn't know where she was going to come down, but Susan Collins of Maine voted against it as well. So I have not heard Rand Paul or Susan Collins say publicly, unless I'm missing something, that they are not running for re-election. But if they are, you can expect that Donald Trump is going to primary them. And beyond Donald Trump, Elon Musk yesterday, you recall a few weeks ago when Musk leaves the White House, he and Trump are at odds, and then they had a sort of come to Jesus meeting, and they patched things up. Well, in the last 48, 72 hours, Elon Musk has gone out of the game. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but Bhaskar saw the same thing I saw. Many of you did as well. Elon Musk essentially said that any Republican that votes for this bill, he says it's a horrible bill. This is Elon Musk now. Any Republican who votes for this bill, if it's the last thing I do before I die, he said that. If it's the last thing I do before I die, I'm going to make sure you get defeated. So he is willing to use all of his money, or certainly some of it. He got a whole lot of it. He'll use some of his money to primary Republicans who vote for this particular bill. I'll ask Bhaskar in a moment what he makes of that, because clearly Elon Musk's critique of this bill ain't the same critique as Bhaskar Sunkara. They're critiquing it in different ways, although both dislike the bill. Elon Musk says, I will primary you if you vote for this bill. So there you have it. J.D. Vance had to break the tie because 3 Republicans joined all the Democrats. No Democrat voted for it, of course. So Rand Paul, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, they're your 3 Republicans who voted alongside Democrats to get this bill across the line, with J.D. Vance breaking the tie. One other thing I want to do right quick before I go back to Bhaskar, because Bhaskar raises this a moment ago, and I want to, where is this thing I'm looking for right quick? I just had it. I'm trying to do 18 things at once. There is a piece today. I think I got it right here. There's a piece today in the New York Times, I think. I read so many pieces before I come on the air today. I think it's the Washington Post, New York Times. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm finding it right quick. Here it is. Yeah, it's New York Times. This piece of the New York Times, read it for yourself. But you can, if you have a Times subscription, just pull it up right quick. You can read along with me. But just give me 2 or 3 minutes here, Bhaskar, because I want to unpack what Bhaskar just said. So Bhaskar says he's heard estimates between 3.3 and 3.9. That is true. But listen to me very carefully now, because I know that most of us, including yours truly, cannot really fathom what $3.3 trillion is. But that is the number that this bill is going to add to the national debt. I've said repeatedly, and the folk who voted for Donald Trump did so in part, the data tell us, because they thought he'd be better on the economy. You just heard Bhaskar lay out a bunch of reasons why that doesn't hold water. But here's a way of processing what $3.3 billion is. Just listen. I got a kick out of this, and I think you will too. So I'm reading from the New York Times. So say you start playing the lottery the day you're born. If you somehow manage to win every game in every U.S. state every single day, we're talking everything from scratch-offs to Powerball jackpots, it would take you 75 years to rack up $3.3 trillion. Here are 5 other ways to think about what $3.3 trillion really is. It's enough to buy every single piece of real estate in Manhattan, all 1.1 million residential and commercial properties twice, based on current valuations. $3.3 trillion is more than the combined wealth of Musk, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, even after his wedding, and the next 18 richest people in the world. $3.3 trillion, if distributed evenly, would be enough to give every U.S. household a check for more, every household, a check for more than $25,000. Broken into $100 bills, $3.3 trillion would create a stack 2,200 miles high, far beyond the orbit of the International Space Station. $3.3 trillion laid end to end, the bills would wrap around the equator 128 times. If you spent $1 every second without stopping, it would last more than 104,000 years. If you spent $1 million every day, if you spent $1 million every day, it would last more than 9,000 years. Can you imagine spending $1 million every day for more than 9,000 years? That gives you a sense of what $3.3 trillion is that this bill has just added to the national debt. I digress. Bhaskar Sunkara, back to you, sir.
No, it's a disaster. It's a disaster, and honestly, when it comes to Elon Musk, I'm torn. I'm actually very curious to your thoughts, because you've been a long-standing critic of money in politics and the role that billionaires and millionaires have in our political system. But I'm really glad for this. You know, I'm glad that the Republicans are going to taste some of their own medicine. They're going to have a bunch of primary challenges. They'll be fighting their civil war. I can't think of anything better for progressives, but at the same time, I feel like a big hypocrite because, a few months ago I was saying that, Elon Musk was a bigger threat to U.S. democracy than Donald Trump.
Yeah. You feel differently about that now?
Well, I mean, I still think he's a big threat to U.S. democracy. I think Trump is one too, but I do think it will be good to see his money flooding the way of Republicans, and good to see some civil war within the Republican Party. That's the best way to undermine Trumpism. We're fighting it from the outside, obviously, but undermining it from the inside would be all the better. I am very skeptical that he will follow through, for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. I think the bill still has a lot of hurdles in the House. I think there might be some sort of compromise that he can live with that secures his own interests and what he really cares about, which is Tesla and some of the credits for EVs. But if this does happen, I think it does provide a real opening for progressives.
Yeah. So my thought is simply this. Dr. King famously said, and he's been quoted many times, people have taken this as if it belongs to them. It's really a King quote originally, that budgets are moral documents. Budgets are moral documents. You can say what you say, but you are who you are. And once you put your budget on the table, we see who you are with regard to your morals. So if King was right, and I believe he is, Bhaskar, that budgets are moral documents, what does this budget say about the morality of Republicans who would get behind something like this?
Well, how many of these Republicans self-identify as Christians, come from sort of these great traditions that have lended so much to making the world a more equal place, but are using these traditions and harnessing the support they get from fellow Christians in order to do what? Cut food stamps? In order to do what? Cut poor people their access to health care? And what are they spending the money on? Tax cuts for the extremely wealthy and bigger deductions for wealthy homeowners. It is just very naked and obvious what Trump populism is and how it's different than the type of populism that you and I support from the left. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious. You know, Trump too is just a total grift, and at the same time that we're seeing this bill pass with its radical effect on poor and working class people on this country, you have Trump on his social media platform, which he owns, promoting cologne. It's crazy. This is as crass as U.S. politics has ever gone, and this is a moral crisis. It's not just a political crisis. It's really a moral crisis. Something is rotten in the U.S., and I think at the root of it is Donald Trump.
Yeah. What Bhaskar calls a moral crisis, Dr. King called a need for a revolution of values. They're saying the same thing, Bhaskar Sunkara and Martin Luther King Jr., but that's the way Dr. King put it, that this country is in dire need of a revolution of values. But Bhaskar's right. We are in a moral crisis of the worst kind. So I want to add to what Bhaskar said a moment ago. Let me just give you my thesis. He asked me a question. I didn't want to avoid it. Here's the way I'm reading this, and we'll talk more about it when we come forward. So Bhaskar believes, and I don't disagree, that if Elon Musk were in fact to honor what he has said, that he's going to primary every Republican who votes against this and make sure they get defeated. Every Republican who votes for it, rather. Let me rephrase that. Every Republican, that is, who votes for this bill that Elon Musk does not like, he has promised to primary and make sure they get defeated. That's what Elon Musk had to say. So, again, to Bhaskar's point, we'll see if he stands by that. So that's one way, and everybody Democrats would love, we'd be putting out our popcorn, right? Progressive Democrats putting out the popcorn, watching this civil war, as Bhaskar referred to it, as Republicans go after each other, backed by the money of Elon Musk. That's one way. The other way, as I said before, is that this bill starts to hurt the people who supported Donald Trump in those red states. You heard Trump already say we got to endure a little bit of pain. Well, this bill is more than just a little bit of pain. This is a whole lot of pain, and it's long-lasting pain. As I said earlier, it may involve death, because when you cut people off of Medicaid, what are they supposed to do? So I'm not trying to be hyperbolic about this. I'm just, trying to be as real about this as I can. And so maybe another way to think about it, Bhaskar, is that Republicans are, self-inflicting, that Donald Trump is self-immolating, given that the people that are going to be hurt by this are his supporters in many of these red states. That's what Tom Tillis was talking about in that clip at the top. He don't care about progressives. He don't care about black people. He's talking about those poor white people in North Carolina who are going to be hurt by this bill. Let's go there when we come forward with Bhaskar Sunkara, The Nation magazine, on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The Trump administration is suing Los Angeles, claiming its sanctuary city policies obstruct immigration enforcement and fuel violence. The lawsuit also names the city council and Black Mayor Karen Bass, who's been openly critical of ICE raids in the city.
Why do you have these young people here who have to miss work, miss school, leave their families, and they're here for no reason? Why are we doing this to them?
The administration is accusing them of violating federal law and creating chaos. Shantira Young, the Black Baltimore daycare owner who shot her ex-husband after learning he abused children at her daycare, is out of prison and in a halfway house. She testified against James Weems, who was sentenced to life in prison for child sex abuse. And HGTV has canceled Married to Real Estate after 4 seasons. Hosts, Black married couple Mike Jackson and Egypt Sherrod, thanked fans and said they're excited for what's next. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off, free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
NBA free agency tipped off on Monday. The Lakers lost a key player. Forward Dorian Finney-Smith signed with Houston, 4 years at $53 million. The Clippers need to get younger in the offseason, but they signed a player who's 37 and another player who'll be 37 in December. Backup center Brook Lopez signed a 2-year deal with the Clippers for $18 million. Nicholas Batum re-signed with the Clippers for 2 years at $11.5 million. The WNBA is adding 3 new franchises, Detroit, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. The league will have 18 teams by 2030. Coco Gauff is back in action today for the first time since winning the French Open last month. The African-American star has a first-round match at Wimbledon against Diana Yastremska of Ukraine. Gauff is the number 2 seed at Wimbledon behind Arina Sabalenka of Belarus. Last year at Wimbledon, Gauff was eliminated in the round of 16. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Sometimes he fails at fitting in,
but we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
That's what it feels like here in America right now, that we're going around in circles. America has grown older, but we've not grown wiser. We've grown older, but we have not grown up. And we continue to pass bills like the one that the Senate just passed, this big mega bill that hurts and harms the least among us, the elderly, the widow, the child, the poor, the black, the brown. On and on and on goes the list of those who are going to be hurt and harmed and maimed. And again, I say some are going to die because they don't have access to Medicaid in the weeks, months, and years to come. And there no mercy can be found in this bill that Donald Trump is gloating about. Republicans are beating their chest about having just passed in the Senate, in case you've just tuned in, narrowly passed. Rand Paul of Kentucky, Susan Collins of Maine, and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. 3 Republicans joined with Democrats voting against the bill, which led to a 50-50 tie. And the vice president, who's the president of the Senate, J.D. Vance, showed up and voted to push this big, beautiful bill, as Trump called it, the big, ugly bill, as Democrats called it, across the finish line. The bill, again, in case you've just tuned in, adds nearly $4 trillion to the national debt. I read a list that I thought was pretty fascinating of the ways in which we can process what that actually means. How much money is $3-4 trillion? We just went through that. But it adds that kind of money to the tax to the national debt. Tax reductions in this bill, nearly $4 trillion in tax reductions. I repeat, nearly $4 trillion in tax reductions in this bill. And $350 billion increases in border security and defense spending. So you're reducing taxes by $4 trillion. That's what Republicans do, right? To the rich and the lucky. But you increase the budgets of programs aimed at border security and defense spending by $350 billion. It also cuts $1.5 trillion from Medicaid, food stamps, green energy programs, etc., that Bhaskar Sunkara, our guest in this Hour from the Nation magazine, laid out quite nicely earlier. And again, the Congressional Budget Office estimates the bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, this modified bill, in case you're wondering what happens next, this modified bill heads back to the House for a vote as soon as tomorrow. Donald Trump is pressing Republicans to get this bill signed into law, get it passed, rather, so he can sign it into law on July 4th. That's what he's aiming for. July 4th is what, this Friday? So he is aiming to get this bill. He wants a big show, and he wants to sign this bill on Independence Day, this Friday, July 4th. So he is squeezing Republicans in the House to get this thing done and on his desk so he can sign it on July 4th. That's that's the play. What Bhaskar Sunkara of The Nation magazine has said in this hour is that this is it's an era of total grift. That's exactly what this is. I mentioned earlier, according to Dr. King, that budgets are moral documents. You can take what you will from what Republicans have done in passing this bill that once again is going to, in many ways, hurt the least among us. What's sad, Bhaskar, is to sit back and to watch Democrats who really have no play. Raphael Warnock, senator from Georgia, was on this program last week making his case about how horrible this bill is. I've talked to other Democrats, of course, in the days leading up to this vote. But it's surreal to just watch Democrats essentially have no play in this moment, even as they talk about laying the groundwork for Project 2029. You've been reading stories about that. Democrats are trying to take a page out of the Republican playbook to do their own project. So there are Democrats now who are anxiously working on what they're calling Project 2029. We'll get to Bhaskar's take on that in a second. But how are you processing, Bhaskar, what I'm processing, this feeling of sitting here watching this thing go down and Democrats really have no play? There really is no defense against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in part the real issue is this vacuum in the Democratic Party. There's no true leader of the Democratic Party. There's no voice at the national level that could combat Trump. Hakeem Jeffries certainly isn't it. Chuck Schumer certainly isn't it. Obviously, someone with the standing of Barack Obama for all the legitimate criticisms that people had of his administration, could be that and could do that, but he's not playing that role either. So you have this fragmented opposition, and an opposition that seems very obsessed with attacking their own, very obsessed with things like, the lies and slander that was pumped out at Zohran Mamdani after he won the Democratic primary in New York City by a pretty resounding margin, 12 points in the final round. And yet everyone was on the Sunday talk show talking more about Zohran critically than talking about Trump and this bill. It is quite depressing. And what I really worry is that they're going to tone down this bill by, let's say, 5%, 10%. And that'll be enough for House Republicans to say they got to win. And the political imperative of Trump really pressuring people and saying, we need a win or our party is over, we need a victory here, will mean this will pass the House in some form. And maybe a couple rough edges are taken off. But the whole bill is a disaster, and it's hard to come back from. And again, this is something that a handful of very wealthy people are supporting because they want to get their couple $1 million of tax relief a year, and they don't care what happens in 20 years. They don't care what happens in 30 years. You're seeing the same thing, too, with their general approach to climate change. Mm-hmm. And this sort of short-termism, egotism, disregard for the poor, I'm not sure how you view this as anything other than a moral abomination. And it should just remind us that Democrats need to fight against the interests of billionaires, need to fight against the interests of people like Trump on a very clear moral and class basis.
Yeah. Given your referencing Zohran Mamdani in New York City, I've asked this question of others in the days since his Democratic primary victory in New York. I've not had a chance to ask it of Bhaskar Sunkara, but since you went there, I'll follow you. We're talking about this moment where we feel helpless and hopeless. There is no agency that Democrats have right now, essentially, to stop this thing from passing the House now that it's passed the Senate. Does Mamdani give Democrats another way to think about the years ahead in terms of a more progressive agenda, a more economic populist agenda?
I like Zohran Mamdani a lot. He's someone that I've known since his first run for office, and I've really admired. I think what his win teaches us is that authenticity and charisma matters, right? Mm-hmm. Finding candidates who are able to just go into hostile settings and say, listen, I know you don't agree with me, but let's talk about our disagreements. Being able to basically say, he's getting hit for some of his advocacy for Palestine, which I think is he's being grossly mischaracterized, and I think his position is a moral and decent position on Palestine. But I think what a lot of voters like is that it's clear that he's not pandering to them. He's basically saying, here's what I think and here's why I think. Please tell me what you think. Let's have a conversation. There's I think a hesitancy among a lot of Democrats who want to constantly shield their candidates. I'm sure as someone in the media, you've encountered this a lot with certain Democrats whose staff wants, a full list. Okay, this is the topics we want to talk about. We don't want to talk about this, and and obviously you have the stature where you could probably just tell them, okay, we'll pick another show. But they're very afraid in general. And I think he shows the value of fearlessness, and also, he's a generational talent just as a politician. I relayed the story in a piece, but about a year and a half ago, I had a visiting member of Congress come into New York City. I won't mention who. Great progressive member of Congress, and I invited Zohran and a handful of activists and organizers in New York City, people from the labor movement, people from Palestine Solidarity Movement, to come meet with this person. And right afterwards, I told Zohran, you should run for Congress or something, because you were the only, the most dynamic politician at the table. And he said, not now, maybe later. And obviously, he probably in the back of his head was thinking about this mayoral run. But I think there's something special there. Now, as far as the actual what it means nationally, well, New York City is not the nation, right? We need candidates who could reach people in semi-rural and rural areas. And when I say that, I'm not saying that as a code for just white working-class people there, but for black voters there, too. I think there's a certain rhetoric, there's certain issues that need to be foregrounded, and I think you ran a perfect campaign for New York City. But I think what is replicatable is this idea of you get a dynamic, authentic candidate who's not afraid to talk to people and not afraid to go out there.
Let's talk about what we can replicate from that campaign when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Bhaskar Sunkara of The Nation magazine. Quick question, Bhaskar. So it is official now. Bhaskar teed this up a moment ago. We knew that Mamdani, won the Democratic primary days ago, but it wasn't really official until moments ago when the elections board in New York declared him the winner. They had to do that ranked choice voting thing to make sure that what they thought was real. So it turns out, as Bhaskar said a moment ago, that he has in fact won the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani, by a 12-point margin, pretty significant 12-point margin. So we know that Curtis Sliwa is a Republican nominee. We know there's another guy, Jim Walden, who's running on the independent line. We know Eric Adams is running as independent. But it puts now the decision is about Andrew Cuomo. He said he wanted to wait to see how big this margin was to decide whether he would run on an independent line. He got spanked pretty badly by 12 points. My sense is that Cuomo's going to sit down somewhere. What's your read right quick, Bhaskar?
Yeah, I think that my hunch right now at the moment is that Cuomo will not run. I'm not positive that's a good thing or a bad thing for Zohran. I think if Cuomo doesn't run and says a couple of nice things about Zohran and says he hopes for the best, whoever's the next mayor of New York, that might actually be a net positive. But I do think Cuomo would compete for some of that Adams vote. So it's difficult to say whether it's good or bad, but I can't see him running and becoming a two-time loser to end his political career. It just doesn't seem like the route that he would want to go down.
Yep, he said again he wanted to see what the margin was like before he made a decision. He has not as yet spoken, but it is official. Zohran Mamdani is the winner of the Democratic primary in New York City. Sets up a pretty interesting race this fall. We will wait to see what Andrew Cuomo does, but I think Bhaskar and I agree on this, that continuing this race, even though others are encouraging him to do so, and losing a second time as a way to end his political career would not be the thing you want. So my sense is that Andrew Cuomo is going to stand down. We will see. Our remaining moments with Bhaskar Sunkara when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Catch Prep is now enrolling for summer credit recovery in fall 2025. As South Los Angeles' top-performing high school in English, math, and college access, Catch Prep is welcoming all 9th through 12th graders to enroll now. Catch Prep offers a small, supportive, and safe learning environment to help all students succeed, so that all students feel valued, respected, and motivated to reach their full potential. For the past 20 years, Catch Prep has helped more students of color gain admission to top-tier universities, with our graduating seniors earning a total of $3 million in scholarships, more than any other school in Los Angeles. We are dedicated to helping all students turn your college dreams into reality. Catch Prep is now enrolling. Visit us online at catchhighschool.com or call 323-293-3917. Spaces limited. Please enroll now for summer credit recovery and fall 2025. Call 323-293-3917 or enroll today at catchhighschool.com.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Bhaskar Sunkara, president of The Nation magazine, founding editor of Jacobin. Once again, The Nation is celebrating 160th anniversary. That's a big deal, 160 years of doing what The Nation does, as only The Nation does it, and we are honored to be in conversation with the president of The Nation magazine in this hour, Bhaskar Sunkara, at least for the next 2.5 to 3 minutes. So I close on this, Bhaskar. I mentioned earlier that Democrats are laying the groundwork for what they're calling Project 2029. To your mind, what are the things that need to be on their Project 2029 list, given what we're up against with regard to Project 2025 from the other side?
Well, I think the key thing is positive economic populist appeals that are framed around the cost of living. That's one thing that Zohran Mamdani did in New York City that I think is absolutely universal. And I think that's key. And the tricky thing is it is very easy to just focus on negative attacks on Trump as a threat to democracy. Because, one, those threats are real. And Trump, as we discussed for the first half hour we were chatting together, is truly an odious figure at every level imaginable. Mm-hmm. But the positive economic appeals, what can you do to make my life better? And limiting those appeals. You can't promise 40 things. You say, I'm going to do these 3 things for you. I'm going to help with your health care costs. I'm going to make it easier to find an affordable place to live. And I'm going to make sure that there's continued job growth in America. Just 3 things. And I think that's the key for any Democratic Party approach. And honestly, I think the idea of a big, sweeping project 2029 sort of thing is really just smacks of Trump just gave us this massive plan that he had from the right, and now the left is going to give us this massive chaotic plan. I think a lot of ordinary people will just want to return to normalcy. And that could be dangerous. It could be centrist. It could be, the wrong sort of framing in itself. But if you basically say, hey, I'm going to give you stable leadership and I'm going to try to address the cost of living crisis in the country, I think you'll get very far. And there's no need for sweeping manifestos from think tanks that are very disconnected from the lives of ordinary working class people.
Yep. Even if they fashion a platform called Project 2029, once you have a platform and a project, you need a messenger. And that's where I don't know the answer yet. I don't see the answer to that prayer. Who the messenger is? Democrats keep bragging about this strong bench they have, but I'm not clear who that messenger is.
I'll give you one name.
Sure.
Greg Kazar.
Yeah.
I think out in Texas, I think is a fantastic progressive.
Yeah.
He's still young. I think he really needs to be out there more. And that's what we need the Democratic Party to do. Its leadership needs to be allowing these younger voices within the party to get their voice out there. And I think as we've seen with the Mamdani campaign, his voting bloc was not just young people in their 20s and 30s. He got a lot of older people behind him, too. People are excited by new leadership and new voices.
Well, if they can marry the right message with the right messenger, who knows what's possible. But we shall see in the coming weeks and months. But today is a grim day in America, given that this mega bill has passed the Senate, will likely pass the House, and Donald Trump will likely sign it into law on Independence Day this Friday, July 4th. God help us all. Bhaskar, thank you for coming on. Appreciate your insights as always, my friend. Take care of yourself.
It's an honor. Thank you.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The Trump administration is suing Los Angeles, claiming its sanctuary city policies obstruct immigration enforcement and fuel violence. The lawsuit also names the city council and Black Mayor Karen Bass, who's been openly critical of ICE raids in the city.
Why do you have these young people here who have to miss work, miss school, leave their families, and they're here for no reason? Why are we doing this to them?
The administration is accusing them of violating federal law and creating chaos. Shantira Young, the Black Baltimore daycare owner who shot her ex-husband after learning he abused children at her daycare, is out of prison and in a halfway house. She testified against James Weems, who was sentenced to life in prison for child sex abuse. And HGTV has canceled Married to Real Estate after 4 seasons. Hosts, Black married couple Mike Jackson and Egypt Sherrod, thanked fans and said they're excited for what's next. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.